Did somebody say Thursday? It is Thursday. I am so excited to be bringing you guys my very first YouTube tutorial. Tonight's tutorial is going to be on coasters. We're going to do it from the measurements that we need for our coasters, our artwork. We're going to get into epoxying them and letting them dry. Because I'm doing this off the cuff, like straight out, you won't get to see how I box them in this video, but I am going to do another video after this one for how I finish the back of them and how they're boxed and delivered to my client, or if you're going to give them as a gift if you're not cutting for business. So let's jump right on in. We're going to go into all of the supplies that we're going to need for tonight, and we'll get started. Yeah. Alrighty, so these are the supplies we're going to need to complete our coasters. I have the 4 coasters here. These are 4x4 coasters I got from Home Depot for about 15 cents a piece. This little easel here, I just have it as an example of how versatile the coasters are. You can leave them on a table to put glasses on or whatever, or you can sit it up on the easel like that so it can sit like a plaque, or you can hot glue it to the easel so it kind of sits up like a picture, okay? Then we have our waterproof sticker paper from onlinelabels.com. They don't sponsor me or anything like that. I just love their paper, and the colors print out very, very bright, vibrant, excuse me. I have my mixing stick, CC gloves. That is the epoxy. That is the brand of epoxy I use. I let it linger there for a while because I always get questions about that. Then I have these little red cups here. This is what I'm actually going to sit the coasters on top of to epoxy so that the epoxy can kind of drip off the side of the cup onto this plastic bag I have down here on my little crafting table. I have my mixing cup for the epoxy, and then I have my little measuring shot glasses that I'm going to use for the epoxy. These came from the dollar store. I think you get about 24 of these for $1. You get about 10 of these for $1. And I think you get another 10 of these red cups right here for $1 at the dollar store. So now we're going to go ahead, now we have our supplies surveyed, and get into the artwork for our coasters. All right, you guys. Thanks again for tuning in. What we're going to do now is we are going to go ahead. I'm going to put myself up here in the corner over here. Bam, there I go. What we're going to do now is we are going to work on the artwork that we're going to use for our coasters. So we're going to be making those 4x4 coasters. I have the 2 pictures of my friend and her husband, my beautiful friend and her husband here that we're going to be using. I've also went and did a PNG just from Google of a heart because when making the Polaroid coasters, I kind of wanted to look like on the bottom of the pictures that it's handwritten. So we're going to leave those there. This bundle that you see here is called the wedding bundle. Wedding ring bundle, excuse me, from SVGondemand.com. They have a ton of stuff on there. Again, you guys, they're sponsoring this video tonight. And for tuning in, you are able to use my code, which I will give at the end of the video, for you to go and get 20% off of any SVGs you have, you see on the site that you like, if you spend $10 or more. So spend $10 or more, you get 20% off, and I will give that code at the end of the video. So this does come in a bundle like this when you download it. But if you look over here on the side, you can see that each of these items are separate, okay? And you see here how I have it highlighted. If I look up here, it says ungroup. So I can ungroup these. And now they're all separate. And I can basically use the ones that I want to use, okay? So I'm going to take this one out. We're going to keep this one. I'm going to use the diamond. And I may use the Mr. and Mrs. So we're going to keep that over here. Today we're going to be using waterproof sticker paper, so we're not going to be using vinyl. All right, and I'm going to take that one out. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to make 2 coasters that are going to look like Polaroid pictures, and then the other 2, I'm going to use the SVGs. I'm going to change the color, and I do of the diamond. I do that by highlighting it Going over here to the color box, and I'm going to change it to like this color red. I think that looks good. Okay. I like that. Now, if I change this, not this one. Change it to print. You see how the color changes a little bit, and you can really see the depth of the color. It's different when you have no fill. You have that black in there, okay? That's what it's gonna get. That's the look it's gonna give you when you want to actually cut it out with vinyl, okay? I'm also going to change this one to red. And I may leave this one black. I'm not sure yet. We'll see what happens as we go along. So now let's get into actually building our template, or what we're going to actually print out for the coaster. So I'm going to get a shape that is a square. Okay. Shape automatically comes out at 3.111. I want this to be 4.1 by 4.1. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my picture. I'm going to right click on it, send front, so that it comes in the front of this. I'm going to spread my picture out until I feel like I'm going to get that Polaroid look from it, right? Because you know the Polaroid picture, the picture's really in the middle, and you have the sides. So that's going to be at 3.667 by 2.972, as you can see. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight. I'm going to go to a line, and I'm going to center horizontally. And that's going to put the picture right in the center, okay? So now that that looks like how I want it to look, I'm going to go ahead and highlight it again. I'm going to group it. Now I'm going to change my square. Click on the square here. I'm going to change my square to a white square. And now when I'm looking at it, it looks like a Polaroid picture. You can make the picture bigger if you want the sides to be a little less wide. And then here at the bottom, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to my fonts. And there was a font that I found that to me really looked like someone wrote it. I think it's this Perfect Day font. And I'm going to put 757. Come on, 7. Just a little line, 2. Wherever. Okay. I got a little bit too much space there. And I'm going to line that up and stick it right there. I'm going to undo that and kind of spread the words out a bit. Okay. Now that I got them in there, I want to make sure that my words are going to be centered. So I'm going to highlight again, and I'm going to go to a line and center. And we actually got it pretty good that time because it didn't move that much. When you do that, you want to make sure that your picture or whatever else you have in there is already centered or is already grouped together, or else everything will move, and sometimes your words are kind of poop center in the middle. So as I go along, I group everything that I'm putting because I want it to stay in place. So we're going to group that. I have my little heart here. Now, I don't want this heart to stay pink, so I'm going to go ahead and go up here. Excuse me, sorry. And I'm going to change it to that color red. All right. Now, it doesn't look red right now because it's set to cut. Once we flatten this whole thing, it'll be set to print and you'll be able to see the red color. Tilt that like that. You see what happens when you don't move front? Now the picture is hidden, so I have to right click, send front. And I just want to kind of make that heart kind of like, you know, old school, like they drew it on there. Get a little bit bigger. Might go ahead and take that. No, I'll leave the line. It's fine. Now we're going to go ahead and group that so that when we move it, it all stays together. I'm going to flatten it because we're going to print that. Cutesy. So that is our first coaster that we've made. Our Polaroid picture looks just like a Polaroid picture, and it looks so amazing once we get them on the coasters. We're going to go again. You can either do another square, or if you don't want to do that, you can click on it. You can duplicate. Okay. You can unflatten. We can go in and ungroup. That's going to ungroup our heart. Highlight again, we ungroup again. That's going to ungroup our words. Then if we ungroup again, it will ungroup our picture, right? So we can move this picture to the side. What I like to do when I'm working with this square, because Cricut has done some updates, I like to change it back to that gray color. So, you know, our darker color, so I can see that I'm not going over the lines or whatever. I think this is the color it originally is, yeah. And our other things are not lost under there. If we actually send this back, they'll pop up right there. So they're right there exactly where they need to be. Now I can look at the measurement on this picture, 3.667. 2.97, and I can go ahead and change the picture that I have there to that size. That way it'll fit right where I need it to fit. So we're gonna unlock. I'm gonna go up here, we're gonna type in that 3.667, 2.972. And I always keep a pen and paper near me when I'm crafting. I'm gonna lock it, and it gives us that same picture size. Okay. Now we're in there. We're gonna highlight it. No, this is too close. We can delete this picture now. We're gonna highlight it. Going to, did that wrong. Undo. We're gonna highlight, and we're gonna center. All right, that gets us our picture exactly where we need it to be. This moved a little bit. I'd say pretty much centered. So you see what happened? I just told you guys, when you don't have it grouped individually, see how when I centered, my heart moved off kilter. It wasn't the same as it is in this picture because the words and the heart were not grouped separately onto the box. So that was a good example of what can happen. So now that I know that it centered the words in the picture, I'm going to just go ahead and group those. In front. See, I told you guys, this is not the pretty clean cut channel, honey. I make mistakes. Wanted to kind of match that other one. Okay, that's close enough. And then we're gonna go ahead, highlight, and we're gonna group that, okay? Now I'm gonna click on my square over here. I'm gonna change that square to white. Now that my square is white, I'm gonna highlight again and I'm gonna flatten, okay? So now these two are ready to print out on that waterproof sticker paper that's in our supplies, okay? Now, for the next one, we're gonna throw that out there. We're gonna change that to our 4.1 by 4.1, because that's the size we wanted to print out. Okay. And this beautiful diamond, again, from svgondemand.com. We're going to put it in the middle. I'm gonna move that in front. I'm gonna highlight. Picture's too close. Come over there. I'm gonna highlight. I'm going to center. Okay. Now that that is centered, I'm going to go ahead and group that because I don't want it to move while I'm typing in. Okay. Now I'll put some text in there. Say diamonds. If I can spell right. Are forever. Okay. Now, I don't like that space that's in between the words there. So I'm going to hit this down arrow and I'm going to bring them together more. Okay. I want them together just a little bit more. Okay. A little too far touching that E. Okay. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make this smaller. I think I want to curve it. Right. How many words? There you go. You can make the words a little bit smaller. That's one reason why we group. Because that would have just messed up my whole alignment. Stretch that out just a little bit more. So it goes over. Make it a little smaller. Bring it down. I'm going to center that. Okay, so diamonds are forever. And I actually want to add, ungroup it. What did it do? Oh, it deleted it. Go back. Give it back to me. 1, 2, 3. Diamonds are forever. And so are we. Again, with that letter space, ew, don't like it. I'm going to bring them closer. I'm just going to make them smaller. And I think what I want to do is I want my diamond to actually come down a little bit more. First a little bit. There we go. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. I'm going to highlight. Now this might go ahead and align for us because of where we have our words and our diamond. There we are. Diamonds are forever, and so are we. I'm going to go ahead and just group this so nothing moves. It looks the way that I want it to look. And I'm going to put their date in the middle, 757. I'm doing their date like this because this is how they tag their date all the time. They do it as 757. And we're going to go ahead and center. That looks good. Right, we're going to group that. Now I'm going to change my square to white. Okay. We're going to highlight again, and we're going to flatten it. You'll see when we do that, it's going to change how the color of the diamond actually looks and how the words look themselves. All right, there's that one. Now we're going to make our next one. We're going to get our square. Dun, 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 dun. Again, our measurement is 4.1 by 4.1. Okay. I sent it back instead of front. Yeah. Kind of want to put this in the middle. And I actually just got an idea in my head. Like you could do like a collage of pictures around the heartbeat. You know, creative juices get to flowing when you get in the lab. I call this the lab girlfriends and boyfriends, if there's any guys watching. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and center that. And then I'm going to go ahead and group it. And I'm just doing some really cute little simple designs for them. I'm going to do my text. Yours. Maybe I'll do you are. My white one. I didn't like the way that one looks. And again, with the space for the font, this is a downloaded font, I believe, or it might even be a Cricut font. But sometimes Design Space is just not the best when it comes to fonts. They are just not. I think they should work on that, especially because they charge us so much for Cricut Access per month. My fonts should work the way I need them to work. That's how I feel. And I'm just going to keep the theme of black and red. And again, I'm doing some very simple designs. Sometimes you don't have to get really fancy for it to be cute. There's so much you could do with coasters. I mean, you could take something and border it around here. Like I said, you could add a collage of pictures. I'm just going to center that. And I'm going to go ahead and group it. And then I'm going to put my heart beats. Now remember that this, I think it brought it down to 0.1. Too much, too much, too much. Go back, go back, go back. Go back. All right, I'm going to make this a little bigger because of the space that I have here. Okay. And I'm going to center it. I'm going to go ahead and group it. And to stay with our theme, I'm going to do a 7. Oh, come on, Cricut. Be nice to me, please. Thank you. You see, I have to send it back just to send it front. Ridiculous sometimes. And so that I could see, because that 7 is real small, I'm going to just make my square bigger, and I will resize it later. I want to make sure that they can actually see that 7 in the middle. So I'm going to move the picture around it. Okay. I'm going to duplicate that 7. Oh, come on. Don't do it like you do. There we go. Now I got to move this one. Oh, come on. Sorry, y'all, I had to get really close up in there to see. You're probably like, look at our forehead. Okay, now, because I don't want that moving around on me, group it, and it'll all stay where you need it to stay. I love that group feature. It's like glue. And this eye gonna have to be real small. So I'm gonna make my screen a little bit bigger. Oh, Lordy. Come on now, Design Space. Sometimes it just doesn't want you to be great. It's making me send it backwards just to move it forward. Just don't want me to be great. There we go. We're going to get this out the way. Make that file a little bit smaller. I'm going to open that file up and make it longer, even though it's smaller, so you can see it better. Come on. And a little bit smaller. All right, now we can go ahead and group it. I'll make my screen back smaller. Move back down to 100%. I'm gonna go ahead and change my size back so I don't accidentally print it out that big, because it will not fit on the coaster and it'll be a waste of your sticker paper. All right, now we're gonna turn our square to white. Okay, cute. And I'm gonna go ahead and flatten that. I just wanted to kind of hide that 757 in there so that I'll stay with the theme for them. And you see with the SVGs, you can change the color. You can add things to them, you know, add words. You can even put them on top of each other if you wanted to. This one we're going to end up, well, you know what we can do? We can stick this one. We're going to turn it red, first of all. And even though we have this one already flattened, we can add this and then just highlight it and flatten it again. First, let us duplicate so we can add it to the other picture. Okay, and we'll go ahead and group that. And then we're gonna flatten it. And you see how it turns that beautiful red color for us so we can actually see it. Okay, we're gonna do the same thing on that picture. Yes, honey. And we're gonna flatten. And that's gonna turn red for us too. So here are, let's make it a little smaller, our 4 coasters. Beautiful Valentine's Day idea for couples. They can either use these as coasters or they can set the actual Polaroid pictures up as like little plaques on little easels from the Dollar Tree. We're gonna go ahead and go to make it. Okay, and with these coasters, we're gonna get 2 per sheet. Just grabbing my paper. Sorry, should have had it in my printer already, but I did it. All right. Now we're going to go to send to printer. I'm going to take the bleed off because I don't want any bleed. For my printer, I'm going to go to advanced options, preferences. Now what I want to print this on is HP Everyday Photo Paper Matte. Okay, because this waterproof sticker paper that we're using, it is a matte sticker paper, and I have found that if you print it as though it's photo paper, because it has that thickness of photo paper or the consistency of a sheet of photo paper, it just prints out better. The ink is saturated more, and you get very, very vibrant pictures. So we're going to go ahead and let Cricut print these out. We're going to get them cut, and then we're going to put them on the coasters. All right, so now that the Cricut has done its thing and it has cut out our lovely artwork that we've just worked on. See how beautiful that red is? Oh, God. Just all the rave about that paper. I really am. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and wipe my coasters down with a little bit of alcohol and just a paper towel, just so that when I transfer the sticker paper, there's no dirt or smudges or, you know, dust or glitter, because I've been in here glittering things. So you just want to make sure that you have a clean slate when you're laying it down, okay? And I'm just going over them with a paper towel and a little bit of alcohol. Alcohol dries very quickly, but I will go over with another paper towel after, just to make sure that it's not wet when I'm trying to lay down the sticker paper. Now, I didn't use very much alcohol at all. Again, I just want to make sure that there's no dirt and dust and, you know, things like that on the coasters, or even fingerprints. We want the paper to lay as flat as possibly can onto the coaster. Okay, so those are cleaned and dried. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to get our artwork onto our coasters. Okay, I bend the camera down so that you guys can see. Looks like you can see pretty well. Okay. Now I'm going to line up. I always go to the corner. This 4.1 by 4.1 measurement will give you a very thin white line around the outside of the coaster. You lay that down. Hear that little crackle? That's a little bit of air bubble in there. And we want to get that out because we don't want any bubbles when we get ready to lay our epoxy. Okay, there's our first one. So now that that is done, we can move on to mixing our epoxy. I'm going to go ahead and put my gloves on. First, I'm going to do the hardener. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill this all the way up to the top. I like to mix my epoxy in small batches. For beginners, I would probably only do enough epoxy to do one coaster at a time. But I just got doing about 25 sets of rolling trays that I had to work with epoxy with. And so I know what these full cups will get me. And I have guesstimated that it should get me enough to do all 4 of these at once. And this is not a very big batch to mix. You don't want to mix in very big batches with epoxy. It's harder to control and to fold over. So I'm just pouring in that first one, and I'm making sure that I'm scraping all of it out of here, because with epoxy, you want to mix in equal parts. So if you notice, I poured each one all the way to the top, because I want to get equal parts. If you don't get equal parts, you get areas of stickiness, or it may take it longer to dry. You may not be able to get rid of your air bubbles, which that's the one thing that I forgot to grab was my torch. There are 2 ways to get rid of air bubbles with epoxy. Well, actually 3 ways, because you could just blow on it with the breath like... you can either use a torch or you can use your heat gun. I'm going to try to show you guys both methods in this video. So again, I'm just scraping and I'm going around. And I don't know if you can see with the camera like how much more is coming out with just me scraping. But I want to make sure I get as much of it out of there as I can. Epoxy can get expensive and you don't want to waste your product, okay? So now I'm going to take it and I basically just want to fold everything over within itself. The instructions on this epoxy are to stir for 3 minutes, to mix everything for 3 minutes. You want to make sure that you keep going in circles and that you're scraping the sides and the bottom so that everything mixes. As you're mixing, you'll see that you'll start to get bubbles. You'll be able to get rid of those, again, with the heat gun method or with the torch method. Sometimes if you don't have a lot of bubbles, you can literally just blow over the epoxy very lightly. You don't want to blow too hard. The same thing with the heat gun or the torch. You don't want to leave it in one area for too long because that will cause dimples in your epoxy. All right, so what I've done now is sped up the process so that you guys don't have to watch me mix for the 3 minutes. So I'm stirring, I'm making sure that everything is folded over into the epoxy. I want to make sure that when I apply it to the coaster, there are no sticky spots and I don't get any dimples. If you don't mix very well, that's what can happen. Right now, I'm just checking to make sure that it is coming out clear so I know that I'm mixing it correctly. I'm going to mix for a little bit longer to make sure that everything is folded over in there. I'm scraping the sides of the cup. I'm scraping the bottom of the cup to make sure, again, that everything is mixed in there properly. You don't want to waste products. You want to make sure that you can mix your epoxy and it goes on to your item, whatever it is that you're doing, smooth. And you want to also be safe with it as well. You don't want to get it on your floor. So you want to try to keep everything within the area that you have selected to work with your epoxy. Checking right now to make sure that it's coming out clear. And that epoxy looks like it is ready to put on our coaster. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my first coaster. I'm going to sit it here. I want to make sure that it kind of stays level. I'm going to bring you guys a little bit closer. Okay. And I'm going to start to go over it with the epoxy. I start from the middle and I go out. Now, because this cup doesn't have anything in it, I'm going to have to be very, very careful of how much pressure I apply. And I'm just starting from the middle and I'm going out. Making sweeping motions across. We don't need a lot of epoxy. We just want enough to cover the picture. Okay. And when we get to the edge there, you can wipe off your stick and do like this. Okay, just to prevent some dripping. Put a little bit more. Go back from the middle. I always end up going back to my middle. And again, I'm just making light sweeping motions. And I'm going all the way to the edge of the coaster. Because remember, we have that thin line that goes around. And we want our picture and the coaster to blend. Okay. And you just want to go all the way till you get to the edge. Okay. All the way to the edge. And again, once you get to that edge, sweep around. That's going to help you get your excess, and it's also going to give this side here a little bit of epoxy and make it a little bit smooth, because these towels are actually supposed to be used for flooring, so they do have some ridges on the side. I've seen some people sand them. I don't. I just make sure that I get some epoxy on them, which will happen. Okay. Back to the middle and pushing out. I want to go all the way to my edge. I'm going to cover the whole picture. I'm going to get any drip that's here on the side. And again, I'm being very careful because this cup does not have anything in it. If you want the cup to be a little bit more sturdier, give you more leeway to move around so that it doesn't fall over, you can stick something in it, rocks or anything you have that's heavy that can ground your cup. All right. That coaster is all the way covered. Now we do have some air bubbles that we're going to get rid of. So I'm going to go ahead and set up the torch and the heating gun so we can get that done. Okay, so I have my torch. Unfortunately, my heating gun will not reach over here. I'm so sorry about that, you guys. So I'm only going to be able to do the torch method tonight. So you're going to go over. And as I'm doing this, all of my bubbles are disappearing. And it actually allows me to see a little bit of an area that I was not able to get. So I'm going to go back and cover that area really quickly. Okay. Now, because I did that, it added more air bubbles. So what I'm going to do is use the torch again, go over. We got rid of our air bubbles. Now I'm just going through, looking for any spaces that might be empty. Looks like a little dot here that we missed, a little dimple. I'm just going to add a little bit more epoxy, and I'm going to let the epoxy level itself out over the picture. Again, we don't need our epoxy to be very thick on this coaster. That's done leveling itself. I'm going to go ahead and take the bubbles out of that. You never want to stay in one area too long with your torch. Let that die out. This thing is a beast. Okay. Now I'm going to gently move that one over to the side and let it live its best life and dry over there. They look so good. It's so nice and so clear. All right, so what I'm getting ready to do now is to go ahead and do the other 3 coasters. I've sped up this process a little bit, again, so that you guys don't have to sit and watch me do it. Right there, I'm just checking to make sure that my epoxy is still clear and that it hasn't started to set yet, excuse me. It's very hard to work with the epoxy once it starts to set. So with this, you want to try to work quickly and get everything done as quickly as you can. that one. Now we are down to our last coaster. And I actually have some extra epoxy that's going to be left over. So I'm going to figure out something else in here to epoxy. Because I don't like to waste product. Again, this video is sponsored by svgondemand.com. Beautiful SVGs there. The images that we got, the diamond and this heartbeat with the rings in it, that is just beautiful. Remember, you can change the colors. I added numbers to the center. And if you stick around to the end of the video, I have a special surprise for you from them. So smooth. I love it. I love making these. Love, love, love. So versatile. You could just do anything. You could do anything with these. You can make them into mini little art canvases. You can make them into little Valentine's Day gifts for your kids' teachers. Go to svgondemand.com and look at some of the Valentine SVGs that they have. You can put, if you have like your child's class picture, you know, they go to school, they take those school pictures and you get that one picture with everybody in the class and the teacher. You can take a picture of that with your phone, email it to yourself, or if you have Design Space loaded on your iPhone, upload it to Design Space that way, and you can print it out and put it on the coaster. And again, these coasters don't have to be done with the waterproof sticker paper. I use the waterproof sticker paper because I like to skip the step of having to Mod Podge it. Because when you Mod Podge, you're going to have to wait for that Mod Podge to dry at least 20 to 30 minutes before you can start laying your epoxy. And if you're using regular paper, you don't want the paper to be too wet, because the Mod Podge is already going to wet up the paper. And then to come and throw some epoxy over it, it's better to wait to let that dry. And I would just rather skip that step. But it's totally fine for you to do that. You can use regular paper. You will get the same result I got if you use the regular paper. Me using the sticker paper is just skipping one of the steps. You got our side. You got a little extra drip on this. This coaster got drip for sale, honey. Get all this extra off. We just want enough to go over those little ridges on the side. These little ridges right there. Now take a look at it. And I'm just making sure that all my little areas are covered. And if I see a little area that's not glossy, I'm going to give it a little drip. And the epoxy will self-level, okay? So once you drop it on itself, you don't have to do too much to it. Okay, that one is complete. We're going to torch it. And this is just to get the bubbles out. I'm sorry that my heat gun doesn't reach over here because I wanted to show you guys how to do both methods. And again, you can also use the breath that God gave you to blow upon the coaster as well. I have a little corner over here that don't got enough drip. Now you can give me some of that back, baby. There you go. Okay. Let that level out a little bit. And then I'm just going to torch that part. Because anytime you add something fresh on your cup, it's going to have bubbles. Oh! I almost lost y'all. You see that? Look at the devil. All right. So we have all 4 of our coasters completed. And they are sitting there drying. They look nice and shiny. Picture looks very vibrant, very pretty. I think she's going to love these. Very simple designs that just came out gorgeous. All right, so there you have it. We have made our 2 Polaroid style coasters, and we have made our other 2 coasters with our beautiful SVGs from SVGOnDemand.com, who sponsored this video. And as a special thank you to you guys for watching and putting up with me through this whole video, you can use my code GucciCrafts20, all capital letters, GucciCrafts20 on SVGOnDemand.com to get 20% off of your purchase of $10 or more. I said it. 20% off of your purchase of $10 or more. Y'all got to go check her out. She has tons of beautiful stuff on there. Girl, she even got a clearance section. Okay. Crafting on a budget. That's what I'm talking about. Use that code GucciCrafts20 to get your 20% off of $10 or more. Also, please like, subscribe, save, share, leave a comment. Tell me if you love it. Tell me if you hated it. Tell me if it's something else you think I can do differently. Whatever the case may be, I want to hear from you. You can also follow me on Instagram at PS465 Design Studio. Again, that's PS465 Design Studio. I'm actually going to be making an Instagram for this channel, but I'm just getting started, so y'all bear with me, all right? Thank you so much for watching.